Hello lovelies, welcome back to our channel. On today's tutorial, we'll be making these beautiful designs with patches, and I'll be using solidary iron or scissors to achieve this design. These designs can be added to your jean, your top, your sleeve, and even your jean skirt or your normal skirt that you have. And you can use bead, pearls, or crystals to design them. To our subscribers, I want to say thank you for subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please like and subscribe to our channel. This way you are supporting us. Come along, let's jump right to it. I'll be using 2 yards of crepe fabric to make the trouser pant, and these are the crystal beads and the glue that I'll be using for the design. So I'm going to keep it aside. We are going to draft our trouser pattern. If you haven't seen my previous tutorial on how to draft trouser pattern freehand, I'm going to put the link on the description below. So what you are going to do is you are going to divide your hip measurement by 4 and add 5 inches or 4 inches. So what I had for my hip was 10.5 inch. Then the total measurement that I got for the wideness of the pant was 14 inches. So after doing that, I cut out the edges and I'm going to mark the length of the trouser. So you mark the length of the trousers that you want, and you're also going to cut it out so that you just work on that particular length that you need. For the length, I use 44 inches and I use my straight ruler to mark it out, and I cut out the excess. So do the same thing for yours. Come over to the waist area and mark your hip depth. After doing that, you use your straight ruler to connect it, and also we'll be marking our crotch depth. For the crotch depth, I use 12 inches. So you have to sit on a chair or a bench and mark from your waist to where your bum touches the chair or the bench. I'm going to put a pictorial illustration for you to see. So this is exactly what you do. Then whatever you have, you are going to mark it as your crotch depth. Mine was 12 inches. So from the waist, I marked 12.5 inches because of the waist length. So for the sewing allowance for the waist area to join the band. So mark the 12.5 inches and connect the lines together. After doing that, we'll insert the measurement. Divide the hip measurement by 4, and whatever you have, you are inserting it on the waistline, the crotch depth line, and also on your hip line. Then you connect it with a straight ruler. So what I have was 10.5 inches. I mark it on the waist. I went over to the crotch area and I marked same thing, 10.5. The hip area I marked 10.5. So do exactly what I'm doing for yours. After drawing the straight line, the straight line is going to be for our guide for our crotch, front crotch. So what you do is mark on the crotch depth, you divide it by 4, whatever you have. So what I have was 10.5 and I divided it by 4 and I got 2.6. So you mark the 2.6 on that crotch area. Then you connect it all the way down to, all the way up to your hip depth. Okay, so you connect it all the way to your hip depth. After connecting it, we've gotten our front crotch. On the crotch depth, you come down from it by 5 inches, and that's going to be for our thigh. So you take your ruler and draw a straight line. After drawing the straight line, you are going to mark your measurement for the thigh. So divide one of your thigh by 2. So when you mark your thigh circumference, when you've gotten your thigh circumference, divide it by 2. Whatever you have, you are going to mark it. And when you do that, after marking it, you can add 1 inch or half an inch. So I just added 1 inch. That was the only time I added 1 inch to the trouser pattern. And I used half an inch for it to just for ease. But the fabric is very stretchy, so there was no need to add stitching allowance. So if your fabric is not stretchy, you have to add sewing allowance to every other part. So on the eve that you mark 10.5, you are going to add 1/2 inch to it or 1 inch to it. Okay, so after doing that, I went ahead and connected it from the crotch depth to the thigh. Then from there you mark your wrist measurement. So for the wrist, if you divide it, also take your wrist circumference. That's if you don't want it to be very tight, take your wrist circumference and add extra to it. So if your wrist circumference is 10, you are going to add extra 2 inches or 3 inches to it, so that you'll be able to pull it off. Okay, it's not going to be too tight. But if you are making palazzo, there's no need. You can just connect it down from the thigh area. Whatever you have on the thigh, you mark it on the M area. Okay, so I went ahead and marked mine. I used 12 inches for mine, and I mark it and connect it all the way down to all the way up to the thigh area. So do the same thing for yours. With this, if you are making palazzo trouser, you can cut it out. But because I want it to be fitted on the waist to the hip area, I'm not going to cut it out this way. So I'm going to divide my waist by 4. After dividing it, I'm going to add 1 inch sewing allowance to it, or you can just leave it that way. If you want to add that, you add 1 inch and insert that. So only the waist area was where I added the sewing allowance. Okay, so you can just add whatever you have and connect it to the hip area. The reason why I did that is because the fabric is stretchy. If it wasn't stretchy, I'm going to add 1 inch all the way to the hip and also to the crotch depth to the thigh area and also for the side. So connect the waist to the hip depth and cut it out. So this is it. You are going to use this to cut out the back. Place the front pattern, trouser pattern, on the back. Okay, so after placing it, give extra space for it so that you'll be able to insert your back crush. So on the waist area, I use 1.5. Did the same thing for the waist, the hip. Then on the crush depth area, I added 2 inch. Okay, so you mark it, you mark 1.5, 1.5, all the way to the hip area. Then on the crush, I added 2 inch and connected it to the hip and the waist. Okay, so you just connect it this way. Can you see what I'm doing? Do the same thing that I did for mine and do the same thing for yours. So after doing that, you go ahead and you use your roller to connect it. And on the thigh area, I use 1 inch for it. I don't want it to be way too big, so I use 1 inch. That 1 inch is going to make the front to be smaller and the back will be bigger. Okay, so that's it. Even on the crotch area too, it's going to affect it. You are just going to have a bigger back and a smaller front. Don't worry, it's okay. It's going to be beautiful when you are done stitching. So mark 1 inch all the way down to the hem line and mark it out. So after marking it out, on the waist area, the side of the trouser, not the crotch area, there's no need to put sewing allowance or anything. So you're just going to cut whatever you have for the front, you cut it for the back. The only side we added was the crotch area. Remember this, guys, just the crotch area, not on the side. So do exactly what I did for mine and do it for yours. After cutting it, this is what we have. You are going to place the front to the back, but you can also place the back to the back and stitch just the crotch area. But what I'm doing is I'm stitching the sides together, the front and the back sides together. Then on the bottom part of that crotch area, I'm going to stitch it. So we'll be attaching the front to the front later and the back to the back. So I'm going to stitch it now and show you how it looks. After stitching, turn it over to the front area. Do the same thing for the other leg piece and turn it over. When you are done turning it over, you stitch it the front side facing front side, the back side facing back side. So do the same thing for yours. You pin it up and you take it to your sewing machine and stitch. This is the other method. Why the other previous method that I talked about earlier is after you instead of stitching this crotch area now, the first part you stitch was the crotch, then you join the sides together and the bottom part. Okay, so I'm going to put a link on my description on my previous trouser tutorial. This is how it looks after stitching. This is how neat it looks. So when you are done, you come over to the waist area. You can decide what you want to use, either elastic or you can use zipper for it. So I use elastic for my waist and the fabric was already stretchy, so there was no need for me to add zipper. Then you cut your band for that. Then on the hem area for the two piece of the trousers, you interlock it and you are going to fold it with your hemming gum and iron it. Okay, so I'll be fast forwarding the process for the band and adding of the elastic. It's time to cut out the designs for the trouser pants. So I folded my fabric into two and I'm adding for both the front and the back of the trouser. You can add for only the front of it, okay? You can add it for only the front, you can add it for the side, you can add it for the... it just depends on how you want to do it. Then I had this heart shape container in my shop, so that was what I used for it. So cut out yours. You can cut out circle. It all depends on the design you want to insert on your trousers. Then I use my marker. If you have a pencil, fabric pencil, that is very, very effective. Because I don't have fabric pencil was why I use marker. And you can also use fabric paint for it to just paint the bottom part of the trousers. You just cut it, and after you've drawn the heart shape, use the fabric paint to paint it. Then I use bead for mine. Okay, so I'm using this crystal beads for it. So that's what I use for mine. You can use it for yours too, the crystal stones or beads. It depends on the design you want. So I'm going to use this piece that I've cut out. I'll be using the marker and I'm going to mark it out. Just transfer it or trace it. So it's easy to make. I'm not going to talk much while doing that, while doing this part of the design. And I want to apologize in advance. I thought the video was recording while I was inserting the beads, but I found out it was not recording. So I'm just going to show you how it looks later. So you can use anything that you have in your shop. I use my thread to cut out circle in case I want to use circle design for mine. Okay, so this is it. You cut it out and you trace and transfer to the fabric. So mark out the length you want to be and you start transferring. the design on the fabric and trace it out. So you can trace very few, you can trace just 3, you can trace 4. I traced more than 4. I traced a lot actually. And the pearls that I used for my design were basically 4 yards of it. So if you want to use very small quantity, you just do for just the front, or just do a few pieces, or make a very big design, and that's it. So trace it all out, and I'm going to be using solid iron to cut it out. You can also use scissors for yours. Okay, so after using solid iron, I end up using scissors to make it neater. So do the same thing for yours. And I'm going to show you how to attach the beads to it. I brought out my soldering iron and it's very hot, so I had to use it to trace it. Be very careful while tracing yours. You can also use scissors, or if you have any sharp object like razor blade or this cutter, you can use it to just cut it out. Then when you are done, you use the pearls, you can use thread, you can use anything that you have that you want to make as the design to design it. You can also use beads. So you just use needle and thread and bead it round. Okay, so the reason why I use the solid iron is mostly for fabrics that have these edges that when you finish cutting it, it will be coming out. But the fabric I used for mine wasn't having that edges. Okay, so I ended up using scissors to cut some parts of it to be quicker. So depends on how you want it to be. So do the same thing for yours. Just follow what I'm doing and do the same thing for yours. This is how it looks after using the solid iron and my scissors. So what you're going to do is whatever design you'll be using for it, you have to use your glue. If you want to use your glue, if you want to use needle and thread and use embroidery to design it, if you want to use color thread to just stitch it around. So it all depends on how you want to design this area. So I'll be using this my bead pearls for it. It's a ringstone beads. So I'll be using it to design the trousers. So what I did, remember I said I cut out the front and the back. You can cut out just the back or just the front, wherever you want to design or however you want to design. So I brought them out and I'm using my glue for it. So I'll glue the holes that I have and use the stones to round it up. So when you glue it, you place the stones on that part that you glue. Then you do the same thing for all the holes that you have for your trouser piece. So that's basically what I did for mine. While doing yours, while attaching the glue and the beads to your holes, I advise you use a piece of paper, place it underneath it for the base, just in between, so that it will be very, very neat. That was basically what I did for mine later on, and it was way, way neater than placing it directly without adding something for the base. Okay, so do the same thing for yours. This is how it looks after stitching. Thank you so much guys for watching today's tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. God bless you. Bye guys.